Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the greatest toy franchise of all time. That's right, I said it. It took over in 1988, crushing my beloved real Ghostbusters. It dominated the early 90s until it burned itself out in the mid to late 90s. But lucky for all of us, it had a resurgence in the early 2000s and has remained relevant ever since. It's amazing to think that I've been collecting Ninja Turtle toys for the past 33 years. That's crazy. They keep reinventing the brand for new generations while keeping old fans like myself happy. That's why I didn't care about Rise of the TMNT. You know, it won't take long for something new and maybe great to come out. After all, if I can make it through Ninja Turtles The Next Mutation, I can wait a little bit through Rise of the TMNT. If you're watching this in the future, the year is 2021, and at the moment, we're in the middle of a second Ninja Turtle craze. We have three main companies producing turtle toys. Playmates is kind of doing their thing where they're re-releasing the same molds over and over again. In my opinion, it's not landing the best. But I do see some people are excited for them and do like them, so I do have to give them that. Just not me. Super 7 is killing it with their Ultimates, which are giant remakes of those old toys from way back when. Like, you know, that's the Playmates Leonardo, and then that's the Super 7 Ultimates. There's the Playmates Mutagen Man from 1990, and there's the brand new Mutagen Man from earlier this year. Just looks awesome. And of course, NECA is completely crushing it, making an amazing giant collection of Ninja Turtle toys based on the movie series, the old video games, Mirage Comics, and of course, in my opinion, the most popular, the amazing Fred Wolf series. If you were a kid during the first Turtle craze, you'd watch your Ninja Turtle cartoon and play with your Playmates toys, and in some cases, your toys would look drastically different from the cartoon. Depending on which you saw first, you might have thought, why doesn't this toy look like the cartoon? Or, why doesn't this cartoon look like the toy? And yes, technically that punk frog over there is Rasputin next to Napoleon, but come on, they have the same exact model in the cartoon. Personally, with the exception of Splinter and Shredder, I always preferred the toy designs. You know, Splinter and Shredder animated always look so much nicer than those original toys. Probably Rocksteady too. Rocksteady looked a lot better in the cartoon as well. Don't get me wrong though. My preference for the toy designs doesn't mean that I don't love or appreciate the Fred Wolf designs. And now that we live in this amazing future where Turtles once again reign supreme, we can get multiple variants of characters we loved way back when and who have pretty much always remained popular, and some characters who mostly were left in the past. NECA has been doing an amazing job bringing all your favorite cartoon characters to life, and I can't think of another company who would be this detailed and accurate. I've seen some people say that they would like to see McFarlane take a swing at this, but nah, I don't think so. I think NECA, that they will be king, you know, adapting cartoon to toys. The people working on this line, you can tell, really love the old cartoon and want this line to appeal to not only the casual Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans, but super obsessive fans like myself. The accessories in this line can be items we've all wanted since the 80s, or random obscure objects that will make even the most knowledgeable Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan go, "What the hell is that?" But don't worry, I found this one. It took me 2 weeks, but I found it! In my reviews, I've been trying to provide screenshots from the show and discuss each item in detail, but really, I didn't start doing that until my Krang Android body review, and even in that interview, I wasn't as thorough as I could have been. So, because I started late with my reviews and, I didn't cover everything as thorough as I could have in the beginning, I figured I'd go through every item in the Fred Wolf series from 2017 to 2020, and talk about where it appears in the show in excessive detail, and talk about if it crossed over into the toys, games, etc. And and if you were wondering about some of these items, like what are these? I hope this helps you out a little bit. And if you're someone in the future who bought a NECA toy collection at an estate sale, I can't believe my wife sold you my turtle stuff for so cheap. She always said she was going to junk it, but I never believed her. I kept telling her, you'd be dumb to sell this stuff. It's worth money. As I go along, I'll also mention some details about a few figures I missed in my reviews or got incorrect. I'll also mention some accessories that I'd also like to see for some of these action figures in the future. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a really long list of information here. The first Red Wolf release was the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con exclusive box set. This thing is amazing. Look how huge this is, and look at that awesome Kevin Mitroni art. Or Ken Mitroni. I can't remember. I'm having a brain fart. I was lucky enough to get this back when it was released. I think I got it on the second day, and I was just, hooked ever since. As soon as I got this thing in the mail, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I need more and more and more NECA cartoon Ninja Turtle action figures. This was such an amazing set, and it included so many great accessories right off the bat. So let's take a look at everything, see how accurate everything is, and discuss any interesting information about these weapons or accessories, if there is any. Because I never really got a chance to talk about these turtles, because I never did a review on them, I figured I'd just kind of talk really quick about their sculpts. In the cartoon, the turtles change style a bit from episode to episode. Sometimes you have that beak line. Sometimes you'll have rounder heads. Sometimes you'll have episodes where they're really cartoony. You have the dark and serious red sky look, which I don't really get. Why do they show the skin around the eyes through the mask? That seems unnecessary. They should have just given them white pupilless eyes like Batman if they really wanted to be awesome looking. I think the most frequent design is the way the turtles look in the second intro. I think that after a while kind of became the consistent look for the turtles that they were trying to go for from seasons 5 through 7. In 3 and 4 they changed a lot, I think, because they were in syndication and they had huge episode runs, 40 episodes. So they were obviously sending these cartoons out to different animation studios to, get them all done in time. My personal favorite looks of the turtles are the extremely cartoony designs in a few episodes in season 3, the lined beaks from the intro and turtle tracks, and the turtles in the episode Shredder and Splintered, where I feel it's the best mix of serious and exaggerated mutant turtle design. I don't know, there's something about the way they look in that I really like. So the turtles look pretty good, and at first glance you think that they match the show pretty well. I mean, I looked at this and thought, hey, that looks just like the cartoon. But in all honesty, the proportions are a little off. From the top of the beak to the top of the head is, I think, way too big. Lots of times in the cartoon, you'll see the Ninja Turtles and the tops of their heads are, pretty small. Not to mention their eye bands and eyes are kind of squished. And if you look at the toy here, you'll see that the beak is the size of from the top of the beak to the bottom of the chin is roughly the same size from the top of the beak to the top of the head. And if you look at it in the cartoon, you kind of notice that most of the time the size of the beak from the top of the beak to the bottom of the chin is usually almost about 1.5 times to 2 times bigger than the eyes up to the top of the head. So, a little bit, these are, not as in proportion as I, originally thought before kind of taking a closer look. However, I will say that the new Disguise Turtles, they have definitely captured this look a lot more. They look a whole lot more cartoon accurate, so that's pretty cool. The final thing I want to mention is the belts. If you look at the cartoon, the Ninja Turtles always have their weapons in their belts because they don't use their weapons all that much, only just sometimes. So, all right, so Leo here, right, he's got these two, little scabbards, very tiny ones on the back of his belt. And if you look at the toy here, he does have them. You can try to put these swords in here, but you cannot really put them in very far. I don't know. I've never wanted to push them any further than that, just because of fear of ripping these. Up next, you have Donnie. And in the cartoon, Donnie, he's got that little spot for his bow. And on the toy here, you've got the spot for the bow. I think you have to pull it apart. Oh, jeez. All right, so anyways, I don't feel like pushing all the way in. It fits. That works well. That's good. Now here's where things get a little dicey. All right, in the cartoon, Raph always has his size in the front of his shell, just like the old toy. And here on the new toy, he doesn't have any space here on the side. So you kind of have to stick these like in the sides of his shell, like this. Which, you know, granted, it works. It's just, you know, it just doesn't look the same. And now with Mikey, Mikey always stores his chucks in the back of his belt. Even after he starts to use that grappling hook, he still carries his chucks around there. And he always stores them upside down. Now, the NECA Michelangelo figure does not have the ability to do that. It almost appears like there's a little bit of a looseness to this belt, but as you can see here, you cannot make the space to put this nunchuck in there. So you can try to put it on the side of his belt, but so you can do that, but I don't know. It's just not the same. All right, so Ninja Turtle weapons. I'll lead with Leonardo because Leonardo is the leader. For some reason, when I saw these swords, I thought they looked extremely fat. I thought they looked way too exaggerated. I think because I always pictured Leo's swords to be pretty thin, much like the Playmates toys. But in the cartoon, his blades are pretty wide. Leo mostly uses his swords to cut objects so that he doesn't have to use them directly on people. I think the closest we ever see him to, you know, swipe by a human is in the Season 2 episode Return of the Shredder, when he swipes at some eggs behind Leonard Nimoy. He does get to use them sometimes, though, like whenever he cuts Krang's hands off in Super Irma. That was pretty awesome. Next, we have Raphael Sai. These Sais look really great. They definitely capture the shape they have in the cartoon, like that, like where the hoops of the blades are pretty wide. Kind of like Leo, Raph mostly uses his size to indirectly affect his enemies, but, you know, in some instances, he has used them to stab stuff. Awesome. I'm sure some parents probably complained about this, because never again. Never again. Next, we have Donnie's bow, and, you know, Donnie is pretty much the only Ninja Turtle who can actually use his weapon as the show progresses. You know, I guess just because he's whacking people with a stick, it's not like he's cutting people with swords or, I guess, bashing things with nunchucks. I don't know what the problem is with the nunchucks, but, yeah. So, there's not too much to comment about the bow. You know, sometimes the wrapping changes around it, but in general, it mostly looks just like the toy. My favorite Donatello bow moment is whenever he knocks the crystal out of the molecular amplification unit in Shredder and Splintered. Mikey has the most to talk about because he's got two weapons. You have the nunchucks, and thanks to European ninja phobia, you have the grappling hook. I've never understood why the nunchucks was such an issue over there. Like, why is this the one thing that they were like, no, we can't have that? Like, Raph has size, and, you know, they're fighting karate or, like, you know, ninjutsu and stuff like that. So what is the deal? Why were the nunchucks such a big thing that they had to edit them out of, you know, the show and everything? I don't get it. All right, so when Mikey could use the nunchucks, Michelangelo used them pretty frequently. He destroyed robots. He hit carnival balls. He hit dudes in barrels. He even hit dudes off screen. Did you know that in the intro, he hits a ninja star, a dagger, a baseball, a grenade, and a hammer? Seems like one of those things is not like the other. In general, these nunchucks look pretty good and pretty accurate to the show. Sometimes they have a bigger piece of metal on the bottom here. And then sometimes they just have like the, you know, the flat gray line. That's fine. One of the coolest accessories in this awesome set is, come on, which one? Why won't you do what you're supposed to do? There we go. All right. It's the awesome spinning nunchucks. Like, first of all, that just looks awesome. And you pull it off, you plug this into here, if you can. And now you have a set of spinning chucks. Because, I mean, first of all, it just looks cool when you're trying to set it up to make Mikey look like he's casually spinning his nunchucks around. And, I mean, in the cartoon, he's constantly spinning them around. He's always spinning them around. And I don't blame him. It looks cool. You know, I always wanted to do this too when I was a kid. I used to take 2 sticks and tie them together with some string, pretend I was a Ninja Turtle. Because all cool things have to end, you know, eventually they got rid of Michelangelo's nunchucks and they gave him the grappling hook. You know, this is a pretty cool looking grappling hook, but to be honest with you, it like, you know, you can't have him hold it. I guess you got to tie it around his hand in order for him to hold it, you know. It's just way too heavy. It'll slip out of there. You can pull the wings out, but to be honest with you, I never pull them past this much because I'm always afraid that I'm going to break these things. These are very thin and they feel very brittle. So yeah, I usually, you know, I don't even really pull them out that much. In the show, I mostly noticed the grappling hook become a thing around the 11th episode of the 3rd season, which was April Fool. You know, he does continue to use his nunchucks throughout season 3, but there's no denying that the grappling hook was slowly taking over. And then in season 4, the grappling hook completely takes over. You know, sometimes he pulls his nunchucks out, but, you know, it's just very infrequently. He mostly always uses his grappling hook. And they even changed the intro, which I assume was so that they didn't have to edit out the nunchucks from the European market. And Mikey only uses his grappling hook in the intro. You know, it's just not that cool looking. Even in season 8, when the turtles became the Dark Turtles, or, you know, the Batman Turtles, Mikey still uses his grappling hook. Like, why? That's not tough. I mean, Batman has his grappling hook, but I don't know. Then he needed to use his nunchucks. I mean, he doesn't even hit dudes with the grappling hook. He's just like tying people up and pulling them around. Like, if you look at all the Ninja Turtles when they're all together, and you know they look awesome with all their weapons drawn. And when Mikey's got the grappling hook, it's like, dude, are you serious? I understand that it's a kid show and all, but sometimes I just want to see Leo lose it and put the Shredder and Krang and Bebop and Rocksteady down for good, you know? Kind of like in the 2003 series when Leo chopped off Shredder's head. Can you believe they did that? Now, let's talk about the Communicators. You know, these Communicators are the Turtles' main source of communication with their pals, you know? This is how they call April, Splinter, the Punk Frogs, etc. In Season 1, the Turtles use turtle comms that are similar to April's turtle comm from Seasons 2 to the end, I guess. So, you know, these turtle comms made their first appearance in the second season episode, Return of the Shredder. First, it looks like a turtle shell, but then you pull it apart and you can talk to whoever's calling you. I kind of wish that they had little stickers on here, kind of like the foot communicators. But, you know, they still did a really good job here. I mean, it has all the buttons. All the buttons are correctly colored. That's great, you know. If you look at it in the show, everything matches. If you look at the back, even all the shapes and, you know, little spots here match how it looks in the cartoon as well. You know, that's all great. That's cool. Even when it's closed here, it looks very similar to how it appears in the cartoon. Although, like, this might be a little more flat. So a lot of times it appears more round in the cartoon. But, you know, like I said, it looks great. You know, I can't complain. The Ninja Turtle Communicator was released in the original Playmates line, but it came out a lot later than you'd think. It actually came out in the year 1993 under, like, the Toon Turtle, you know, sub-series or whatever you'd like to call it. That's 5 years after it appeared in the cartoons. That's pretty crazy. But a Turtle Communicator came with each Ninja Turtle in that line. Let's talk about pizza. The pizza box is really cool. Unfortunately, you can't close it because it's made out of hard plastic, but it looks really neat. And on the top back here, it says Weird. And that's for Weird Pizza. And with that, right off the bat, NECA was already giving you little obscure nods and Easter eggs to the original show. In the Season 3 episode, Pizza by the Shred, Shredder opens up a pizza shop, hoping he could use it to learn the whereabouts of the turtle's lair. That pizza shop is Weird Pizza. That's not all either, because in that episode, Michelangelo gets a job at Weird Pizza as a delivery man. You know, how is Shredder that stupid? I don't get it. Next, you have this single slice of pizza, and this is cool. It's made out of soft, I guess, vinyl or something like that. And I really like this a lot because there's a hole in it. And why is that so cool? Well, so you can stick it onto Raph Sai here and pretend he's eating it. Just like in the intro of the show. Now, let's take a look at the bad guy side of the set. And I'll start with the foot soldiers and work my way up. You know, these foot soldiers here, they have a red foot symbol on their heads. They only had red symbols in Season 1. In Season 2, when the foot soldiers finally show up in the episode, well, the last episode, Return of the Technodrome, they actually have yellow foot symbols. And they remain yellow for the rest of the show. You can try to get these guys in like sort of that like caveman pose where they're kind of hanging forward, but because they don't have any articulation in their waist, you know, you can't really hunch them over too far. On the foot soldier accessories, starting with the plunger gun. You know, I don't think it's named that, but I mean, I call it that. You know, I've always liked this design a lot. I think it looks cool, and it looks very Turtles. Like, this is the kind of design that kind of pops in my head when I think of foot soldier weaponry. But in all honesty, it hardly appeared in the show at all. I think I mostly remember it from the arcade game. So let's talk about where it appears in the show. In Season 1, they use guns that look very similar to this, but, you know, after that, they never appear again. During the intro, you can see the foot soldiers carrying rifles that are pretty similar. I mean, the markings are kind of the same. They sort of have the plunger front and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, in Episode 1 Turtle Tracks, the foot just mostly uses real weapons like swords and spears and stuff like that. It's not until Episode 3, A Thing About Rats, where the foot soldiers use this weapon when they're sent to kill Baxter. But here they're a little misshapen, you know, they're not the best. You do get a better shot of them in the Episode 5, Shredder and Splintered, when they're like trying to shoot the turtles as they're hanging from a rope. This is where I think that they look closest to the design as it appears in this toy. I mean, that's pretty similar. I think that, you know, like I said, I think that this is mostly like an arcade design. You know, I think that they looked at the weaponry in Season 1 and kind of took that and adapted it for the first Ninja Turtle arcade game. And that's why you have, like, the foot soldiers walking around with this plunger gun. So, you know, like I said, I think this is more similar to the arcade design than it is the actual cartoon design. I also kind of wonder if this, like, plunger gun from Season 1 was the direct inspiration for the Krang's brain drain gun. Or maybe if they had this design and then adapted it into the cartoon. I don't know. The rifle and the handgun that was released in the SDCC set and released many times since, I kind of referred to that as like kind of like the stock Technodrome weapons, you know, because the foot soldiers and Bebop and Rocksteady start to use these guns in Season 3, and they pretty much keep using them all the way until Season 8. Season 3 began in September of 1989. But you know what else came out in 1989? General Trag. General Trag had both of these weapons, so the real question is, which came first? As they developed the model sheets for the cartoon, did they give, you know, these designs to Playmates and said, hey, make toys of these? Or did they make these toys first, and then the Playmates gave these to Fred Wolf and said, hey, put these in the cartoon, we need to sell more toys? I don't know. General Trag never even used these guns in the show. The rifle is called the Stun Laser Rifle, and you really notice this thing in the Season 3 episode Sky Turtles. You know, and it's really amazing how accurate that cartoon design is to the actual toy. Like, obviously you don't have these wraps and stuff like that, but just like the slits on top underneath the scope and the, you know, these squares connecting the barrels to each other. Everything is pretty similar. So because of that, it kind of makes me think that they probably designed the toys first, and then they adapted them to the cartoon to, you know, make them less wacky, I guess, because they took out those wraps and stuff like that. And can you imagine planning out the movement for this gun in every shot? Like, you'd want to drill a hole in your forehead. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, there's so much detail there. So many things that you have to think about moving around. Like, even the space between the barrels. It seems unnecessarily. Like, this is just, like, a huge animator headache. And the designs, you know, they never simplified them or anything like that for 5 seasons. They were just always this super intricate, super detailed design, which is strange to me because, you know, they simplified Mutagen Man and Muckman and all these characters, but they left the weaponry extremely, extremely detailed. What's up with that? The NECA stun laser rifle is very similar. You know, they hit all the details, just not necessarily the proportions. You know, certain things could be spaced a little differently here. Like, especially like these ridges here, like they should be a lot bigger and should be spread out further, or like, you know, more underneath the scope. You know, you don't have this gap between the barrels, and like these little squares here aren't as big as they appear in the show. You know, so in some ways, the Playmates one is a little more accurate just because they have those like bigger ridges and the grip and like the bigger squares and stuff like that. But, you know, it is very similar. I can't complain too much. It's just a small little nitpick here. You know, I think it's really good. You know, I still think it's really cool looking. I guess I would say that maybe in the cartoon and the original Playmates design, it seems a little more exaggerated, where this one seems a little reserved and a little safe or something. But it's still good. Next up, you have the handgun, and this is called, in the original Playmates toy line, it's called the Laser Blaster. And I've always loved this design, where like the handle connects to the barrel, because it reminds me of the laser tag guns. And obviously it's different, but there's just something about where the barrel, or like, you know, the front of the gun is connected to the handle, just felt so futuristic. In Season 2, you have like sort of like the precursor to this gun. It's still very different, but in Enter the Fly, Baxter uses this, and in Return of the Technodrome, Rocksteady uses this kind of gun too, and I guess some foot soldiers do too. But, you know, this design is still half-baked and is not as cool as the final Season 3 design. I really began noticing this in Season 3 in the episode The Old Switcheroo. And again, this gun, just like the stun laser rifle or whatever, lasted until Season 8. There's a few like designs missing here, like a little tiny red bar on the side there. And on this side, this should also have the red circle and the little red bar down here. But in general, it is very similar. You know, it looks pretty cool. It even has that little tiny like area that kind of comes off of here, although it's not necessarily the correct angle. But, you know, whatever. These are all just, like I said, I'm not finding all these faults in this. This is just like, you know, crazy, excessive nitpicks to point out how accurate everything is. Like, I still like this. You know, it still looks very cool when your foot soldiers are carrying this around. And when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's the gun from Ninja Turtles. I know that anywhere. I think, again, just like the rifle, you know, this design is a little, you know, just a little safe. You know, this is a little bit more exaggerated. I think in the cartoon it seems maybe a little more exaggerated, and this is just kind of like, you know, they did it and it works, but it's just not as like, I don't know. Certain things just aren't as emphasized as you would think they would be. Also, I think that maybe the color on this is a little off. You know, this is more of like a white, where in the cartoon it almost seems kind of like a bluish silver kind of color. Now for an extra bonus. Here is this gun, only now released by Super 7. This was included with their foot soldier. You know, this one, the NECA one, I mean, is just a lot bigger. The colors are more accurate to the cartoon. If anything, I would say that this would be based on the General Trag design, because, you know, they're making their they're upgrades to the original toys, and the Foot Soldier never had this rifle. So, you know, if anything, it should probably be more similar to this. Hopefully, this Foot Soldier rifle is not the one that they'll release with General Trag, because it will be way too small. Like, this is pretty small, and you need something a little bigger in size to match General Trag's huge body. You know, and just like I said, the paint is just kind of missing on this one. It's a little bland and maybe a little boring. There's not much to it other than these little tiny silver dots here and there. But, you know, I would say that they did kind of get like these ridges here underneath the sculpt. And, you know, that's, I guess that's a little more accurate to the cartoon. And then if you look at the laser blaster here, again, they just did not paint this at all. Like, this is supposed to be the painted one, and they didn't paint it at all. So it's a little off. There are certain things on here that are actually more accurate to the cartoon, I think. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think maybe certain proportions of it are possibly a little more accurate. But like I said, because it's not colored, the NECA one just looks a lot more. I mean, it just looks a lot nicer. Like, it really, really pops. And again, you know, you don't want, like, this is okay for the Foot Soldiers, but I hope that they do not try to repackage this with the General Trag when they do eventually release a General Trag, because this will just be way, way, way too small. Next up, you have the Foot Communicator, or the Comlink. Now, here's an important note. Every single Communicator released has had a different picture on it. So every time you get like General Trag, and they have a Communicator, you have Bebop and Rocksteady, they have one Communicator. The Foot Soldiers all came with one Communicator. They always have a different picture of a different guy, and it's a picture of the actual toys, and that's just an awesome little like touch. You know, that's an amazing thing that NECA has done here. So this one has the original Krang that appeared in the San Diego Comic-Con set, and, you know, like I said, it's an actual picture of the toy, which is great. And if you look at the front here, you know, it has all the buttons you need. It has that little tiny speaker down there on the bottom, just like it appears in the cartoon. If you look at the back of the Communicator, it has the same design as this toy here. You know, it looks pretty awesome. That silver thing is actually supposed to be a stand. You see that stand in the Season 2 episode, Invasion of the Punk Frogs. And here's another interesting thing. In that same episode, Bebop and Rocksteady actually use a yellow Communicator. So that'd be a pretty awesome toy or accessory in the future. You know, NECA, if you're listening. The Foot Communicator did come out in the original Playmates line, and it was included with Super Shredder. And Super Shredder came out in the year 1991, which is 3 years after its appearance in the second season of the cartoon. Here you can see the front of it, and, you know, the speaker is there on the bottom. You do have the two buttons underneath the screen, but, you know, the proportions are a little weird with this thing. Like, it's not exact as it is in the cartoon. Now, on to Krang's accessories. Is the Bubble Walker an accessory? I don't know. Maybe. In my Playmates review, I mistakenly said that the Bubble Walker made its first appearance in the third season episode, The Four Musketurtles. And I was wrong. Thanks to the help of a viewer, he let me know that the Bubble Walker actually made its first appearance in the Season 3 episode, Turtles on Trial. I don't know how I missed that. You know, I skimmed through all the episodes when I was trying to find that information. How did I miss it in that episode and just continue all the way to Four Musketurtles? I don't know what happened there. But, you know, in the cartoon, it's a little smaller, a little more compact, but the details are pretty similar. Even the designs on the back of this toy are pretty similar to how they appear in the cartoon. So here's Krang's tripod, and the tripod made its first appearance in the Season 1 episode, Enter the Shredder. The very first time you see Krang, he's kind of sitting on this, and, you know, it's just very simple to plug him in on there and move him around, right? Krang mostly uses this during Season 1 before Shredder makes his new body, you know. This is the only way that Krang can get around from place to place without his new body. This is even before the Bubble Walker makes his appearance, so, you know, he's got to use this thing. I haven't seen an episode where Krang was actually sitting on top of the tripod in the stomach of the Krang android body, but I don't remember which episode that was, and, that was just like a one-time occurrence that I remember. Okay, so we're finally here. We're finally at the last figure in the San Diego Comic-Con box set, and it's the Shredder. And the Shredder here is actually done really well. There's just one thing I got to mention here, right? And that's, underneath those arm guards, underneath his blades, he's got like these wraps here. And that's not supposed to be there in the cartoon. If you look at the cartoon, he actually has just like bands, and you can see his arm underneath. And so I think they did that because this is actually kind of like a repaint with some adjustments of the Mirage Shredder that they originally put out a while ago. So if you get the arcade Turtles in Time Shredder, he is actually a little bit more accurate because you can actually see the his skin with the bands for his arms. So that's the only thing I got to mention about the figure itself. So Shredder has one main accessory here, and that's his sword. Now in the cartoon, you wouldn't think it, but he actually uses a sword pretty infrequently. Like it pops up here and there, but in general, he doesn't use it very often. The biggest times that I can think of when he uses it is in like Return of the Shredder, when he has Splinter tied up and he's threatening to cut down this battering ram to crush him, or he uses it in Shredder and Splintered whenever he's fighting Splinter. I do know he also uses it in like the big blowout and all the way in season 8, the episode Get Shredder, but there are some other ones sprinkled here and there where he does use a sword. I think that the design of the sword is probably more similar to the sword in Return of the Shredder, but I don't believe that, this sword was made to be anything specifically cartoon. I think that this was actually included in the NECA arcade box set that they had. So if anything, this design and these colors, I think, match the arcade look of the Shredder more so than any of the Shredder cartoon sword designs. And now it's time for the final San Diego Comic-Con accessory, the Canister of Ooze. In this set, you have the blue can. Most of the times the can shows up in gray, but you do have one appearance of the blue can in the cartoon, and that's in the episode Invasion of the Punk Frogs from Season 2. Like the markings and everything like that are very similar to this toy. So, that was pretty cool. Well, that was a lot to go over. What an awesome beginning to an amazing line, right? And things are just getting started. There's still so much more we got to talk about. Thank goodness some of these toys only come with like 1 or 2 accessories. So like nothing new came out in 2018 for the cartoon line. And then in 2019, the line came back to life. But now it's a Target exclusive line, which, is unfortunate to a lot of people. In early 2019, they re-released the toys in the San Diego Comic-Con, so that now it was like 2 packs pitting 1 turtle against 1 villain. All the accessories were present, and there were no new bits and pieces yet. But then around October-November 2019, they finally released Wave 2. You had Bebop and Rocksteady, you had a Foot Soldier Army pack, and you also had the promo art Ninja Turtles. The promo art Turtles, they were the same molds as the original San Diego Comic-Con Turtles, only now they have bright skin, just like you saw on t-shirts, stickers, cards, etc., etc. back in the day. Most of the accessories are the same, but there are a few new ones. I gotta admit, when I saw the bright green turtles in store, I passed on them. I thought, I don't need this variant, but I didn't realize that there were some very cool paper goods included, not to mention some cool new pizza boxes. Because I don't have these items, I had to get pictures of them, and I got these pictures from an administrator of the amazing Facebook group Geeked Out Collections. It's a really, really great group filled with lots of great people who love to collect and talk about toys. So if you're not a member there, you should definitely check it out. First, let's talk about the Bebop and Rocksteady cutouts. These come from the Season 3 episode Leatherhead Meets the Rat King. The turtles are training in a junkyard, and these are just their targets. Next up, you have the Blimp Blueprints. Now, this never appears in the show. The Blimp first appears in the episode Shredder and Splintered, and in that episode, Donnie just says, like, to the other turtles, I saw some things at Baxter's lab I think we can use. And he goes to Baxter's lab, steals a bunch of equipment, and builds the Blimp. So, how would he have come up with these blueprints beforehand? He didn't. He just kind of went in there and did it right off the top of his head. Next up, you have the Ransom Note that appears in the Season 4 episode, The Big Cufflink Caper. In that episode, Shredder has mobsters search the city for the cufflinks of Cathay? I can't remember which it is, which are actually secret explosive. The turtles find the cufflinks first, so Shredder and the mobsters eventually kidnap April and send this message to the turtles. Now, the comics. First, you have the two Bugman comics. These appear in the Season 4 episode Michelangelo Meets Bugman. Bugman is Michelangelo's favorite comic book hero, and as it turns out, Bugman is actually a real superhero in Michelangelo's world. That's a big coincidence right there. I don't know why he's real or why Michelangelo wouldn't know that he's real. They never really explain that. He just exists, The other guy is one of Bugman's arch rivals, Electro Zapper. The turtles team up with Bugman in order to stop Electro Zapper, and that's pretty much it. Next up, Alien Invaders. Now this appears in the Season 5 episode, Zack and the Alien Invaders. This was the first and only appearance of Wingnut and Screwloose, and they're actually villains in this episode, which is very unusual for those two. In that episode, Zack, the fifth turtle, reads this comic and he begins to think that aliens are invading Earth. So he makes one too many false accusations, and his parents send him to military school. That's pretty harsh, right? And in military school, he eventually, learns that aliens actually are invading Earth. Wingnut and Screwloose, to be exact. Next up, you have the free pizza ad. Now, this is from the Season 2 episode, Case of the Killer Pizzas. Shredder gets these little eggs that he decides to put on pizzas so that the turtles will take them home and accidentally hatch the pizzas. In order to get the turtles to come up to get these pizzas, he throws these, free pizza ads into the sewer. Although Splinter looks at the ad and he noticed that there are cut marks on them, which is weird. Like he notices these cut marks and he's like, "Oh, these could have been sent down by the Shredder." So it's like, really? You got that? But to be fair, he was right. Next up, you have the gray canister of mutagen, and I only have this because it was also included with General Trag and Granitor. Now this, you see this in a few places in the cartoon. Like, it's in the Enter the Shredder from Season 1. It's in the Were-Rats from Channel 6, which is in Season 4. And eventually they released one that opens up with the Neca Rat King figure. And when you open it up, you can actually see the unstable mutagen inside, just like that episode of the cartoon. And also, you can see it in the second intro of the cartoon, beginning in Season 4. Now, finally, you have the two new pizza box covers. All right, first you have Vinny's Pizza, and Vinny's Pizza shows up in a couple Season 3 episodes, and here and there throughout the series. Like, I do know it's in the Slash episode, too. But most importantly, it's in the episode Cowabunga Shredhead. This is Mikey's favorite pizza place. And but if you look around in any of these shots that I've shown, you notice that there's no actual Vinny's logo. It just says pizza. So I think that maybe NECA had created this for the box. Wait a second! Look what I found! They actually do have a Vinny's logo in the show. Now, I don't know if this has popped up in, a lot of other episodes that I just haven't seen yet, but when I was, trying to get some more screenshots for this video, I was looking through an episode in Season 6 called Snakes Alive, and I saw this shot of Leo standing in front of Vinny's Pizzeria. Now, like I said, now I gotta continue to search and see if I can find more and more. If I find any updates to any of these things, I'll put like a comment. The final new accessory and final pizza box is the Ninja Pizza box. Ninja Pizza, home of the nice slice, right? Ninja Pizza only shows up in the first episode, Turtle Tracks. Ninja Pizza is in the Ninja District, where they even have a ninja dentist. Where's the Ninja District? It's right next to the Hammock District. I say go get a pizza at Ninja Pizza and take it with you to Marianne's Hammocks. Alright, that's another release down. Now we're really cooking with gas. Up next is Bebop and Rocksteady. Now this one is a pretty easy one because they only came with 2 laser blasters and 2 stun laser rifles. And 1 communicator. So I already talked about the rifles and the laser blasters in the San Diego Comic-Con section. So in case you're skipping around here, go back there and you can find out the information about these 2 different guns. One thing I will say is that, soon as Season 3 starts, Bebop and Rocksteady usually use these guns all the time. Like, I don't think they really ever use anything else. There's like a couple random guns that look different, but in general, they mostly always use these guns throughout Season 3 through Season 8. The communicator included with Bebop and Rocksteady has a picture of the Shredder on it. And again, I talked about the communicator, the details about that in the San Diego Comic-Con section. So here's a few other interesting things I found out while skimming through the cartoon, right? Usually you see Rocksteady and he has this wooden sword on his back. What's the purpose of a wooden sword anyways? Like, what are you going to do with a wooden sword? You're just going to smack people with it? But he actually does use it a couple of times in the show that I've seen. Maybe even more. He uses the sword in the Season 2 episode Catwoman of Channel 6. And he also uses it in the Season 7 episode The Irish Jig is Up. And also, I have noticed him use this grenade on his on the front of his shirt here. Usually, it just kind of hangs there, and it's just kind of like a decoration, right? But in the Season 3 episode, 20,000 Leaks Under the City, he actually uses this thing. He pulls it off and he throws it at the turtles. We are now done with 2019, and now we get to go into 2020. The year that things really began to take off for NECA's Fred Wolf series. First up, you have the Casey Jones and Slashed Foot Soldier 2-pack. Casey Jones is a great figure. His head might be a little too big, but he works well, It's cool that Casey's look in the cartoon was so close to Casey and Mirage Comics. I mean, it's pretty hard to mess it up, right? I mean, just a dude in sweatpants and a hockey mask. He seems like he even has like the Mirage Studio big pupilless eyes. Casey comes with all the weapons that you'd want from the show. Casey has the goalie stick that he uses in the Season 3 episode Casey Jones Outlaw Hero. He uses this to, beat the snot out of the turtles in the sewer. Also from that same episode, you have his baseball bat. And this thing, like, what is this? Is this supposed to be a metal bat? What is it? I don't know. It looks like it has like a little handle on the bottom here. Somebody once said that it might be rebar, but I have no idea what this is supposed to be. But he does use both of these in the Season 3 episode Casey Jones, Outlaw Hero, right? When he's trying to destroy all these different types of machines. Next up, you have the sledgehammer. Now, he actually uses this whenever he's trying to break into Krang's giant knucklehead, and he actually does put a hole in the side of it. And finally, you have a regular hockey stick. Now, from what I've seen, I haven't noticed him actually use the regular hockey stick. He uses, like I said, he uses the goalie stick, but the regular hockey stick, you mostly see it in his golf bag in the episode, the Season 3 episode, Corporate Raiders from Dimension X. And speaking of golf bag, here you can see his golf bag. Technically this is an accessory too, because it's not attached to him. You got this thing and you put it on him. So the foot soldier, he has some repeat weapons here, which is nice, because I don't have to talk about. First you have the stun laser rifle, which, I talked about that in the San Diego Comic-Con section. You have a communicator, only this time you have Rocksteady's face on it, and, that looks hilarious. The perspective on that thing is pretty funny looking. You have a regular Ninja Star, and I mostly remember this in the first episode, Turtle Tracks, whenever the Ninja Turtles, when they arrive on top of the rooftop, when they're trying to find April, this just gets thrown into the wall behind them. And also, you can't really put these on the foot soldiers' belts, but there are lots of times when you will see a foot soldier and he will have a Ninja Star tucked into his belt. Next up, you have the orange Ninja Star, and this is just awesome looking. I just kind of like the color of it, this like neon orange. But this actually shows up in the very first episode. This was in Turtle Tracks. This is just like a a super duper Ninja Star because it's like heat seeking, or I guess maybe cold-blooded seeking. The foot soldiers throw this at Leonardo, and he's able to slice it in half. The last new weapon is this awesome blue gun. Now, I don't know any name for this gun. I don't think it was released at all in the old toy line, so I have no name for it. It's just a cool blue laser design, right? But the truth is, in the cartoon, I don't think you ever see a foot soldier carry one of these. But it is Technodrome technology, right? Usually you see this being carried around by humans who are in league with the Shredder. It first appears in the Season 3 episode The Maltese Hamster, where Tony, the butcher Vivaldi, has been hired by the Shredder to find the Maltese Hamster. Shredder sent this rifle and some other Dimension X technology to Tony to help him in his search. It was also seen in the episode Corporate Raiders from Dimension X, which is also a Season 3 episode, where, again, Shredder is leading some humans. But Bebop and Rocksteady also get to use them while wearing cool suits. After that, it shows up in the Season 5 episode Michelangelo Meets Mondo Gecko. Mondo and Mr. X are not in league with the Shredder, but maybe they are, and we just don't know it. Last you see them in the Season 3 episode, the Season 8 episode, Enter Krakus. Here they're actually used by government guards. So I think that this is one of those cases where they were like, we can't have our guards have real guns, so let's just give them one of these cool laser designs. Again, no connection to Dimension X, so there. Let's move on to April with the bashed foot soldier. Technically, Metalhead came next, but since the bashed foot soldier has all the same accessories and weapons as the slashed foot soldier, I might as well talk to them now to try to group them together. The only difference is the bashed foot soldier comes with a different communicator picture. This time, the bashed foot soldier has a communicator with a picture of Bebop on it. Also, I tried looking in the show for foot soldier guts to see if any of the designs look similar to this, but in all of my looking, I couldn't find anything like this. So if you know what this is from, like the internal robot organs of the foot soldier here, please let me know what episode that's from. I figure maybe it's from an episode where they're showing the foot soldiers being created or something like that. I don't know. So let's take a look at April. April is probably the most controversial figure in the whole line, and from what I've seen, it's mostly panned, like a lot of people seem to have a problem with this one. I think a lot of that is the size of her head. It's gigantic, but I do think there are some other contributing factors. I think a lot of her wonkiness just comes from the fact that her upper torso appears like squished, like it's way too small compared to her legs and her head. Like they probably could have kept the same head size if they would have made her torso a little longer and just kind of widened it a little bit. It's too small and it looks a little strange. Not to mention her neck in there is like almost non-existent. It's like completely tiny. I think they had to shrink April's torso down so she appeared a little shorter than the Shredder. I think that maybe when they originally made the Turtles and Shredder, they didn't plan out, the scale of this line in the long run, because probably the Shredder should be a lot taller than the Ninja Turtles, and April should definitely be taller than the Ninja Turtles, because if you look at her in the show, usually the tops of the Turtles' heads line up with April's shoulders, but if you look at this toy here, the top of Mikey's head is it lines up to above April's eyeballs, and that's way too tall. Like April should be a lot taller than them. She looks tiny compared to them here. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind if she was the same height as the Shredder, just as long as she was a little bit taller than the Ninja Turtles and a little filled out more. She, like I said, she feels a little too oddly proportioned or something. In the cartoon, I always got the sense that April was probably like supermodel size. Like she seemed very tall, and I don't know, like for whatever reason, they just did not try to match that with this action figure. I think both NECA and Super 7 have dropped the ball a little bit here with their April action figures. They keep saying that they don't understand why collectors are unhappy with the designs, but, I don't think either company has gotten the proportions correct yet for April. Like, I don't know. They seem to keep trying to change her around a little bit. They at least kept a lot of the patterns the same on the her outfit here, so that's good, And also she's got this thing on her back here. I mean, what is that? Is that like a planner or something like that? Okay, so April accessories. April comes with a very small Channel 6 camera. That's good because April is usually running around following the turtles, shooting video and trying to get her scoop, right? It's a good size for her to just run around and, a very good portable camera. And you can see it in the show. Lots of times she uses this Channel 6 camera. There's also lots of times where she uses, like, generic cameras. But most of the times they'll go back to this Channel 6 camera. And later on, they released a bigger camera with Vernon, which is fine because, his is probably less portable. April's not going to be running around with this gigantic thing chasing after the turtles. I don't even think her hand can fit around the handle here. She has very, very tiny hands, which is perfect for this. Up next, you have April's audio recorder, and this looks cool. Some of these details on the side here you can actually see in the cartoon, so that is pretty cool. I think that this is a very, very cool looking thing, It's very neat. And in the first season, there's actually a Channel 6 sound guy. Like, he walks around with this thing recording audio, but eventually he vanishes. I think after season 1, he doesn't show up ever again. And April usually just kind of has this thing hanging around her shoulder, so she can do interviews and record stuff. You can mostly see April use this thing in season 2, especially in the episodes Return of the Shredder, New York's Shiniest, and Catwoman of Channel 6. There's not much to the back of this thing either. There's just like tiny little, looks like plates or something like that, April also comes with a portable microphone. This one doesn't actually plug into her sound system. Now you'd think that she would use a Channel 6 microphone frequently, but to be honest with you, most of the times she uses a generic microphone in the show. Just every now and then she'll have one that says Channel 6, and most of the other times it's just a plain old microphone with no number or anything on it. You can see her use a white one in the episode Shredder and Splintered from season 1, and then a few other times, but I really noticed this microphone in the episode The Great Bull Dini, which is in season 3. And look at the way they drew the 6 here. Like, is that even a number? April has her turtle communicator, which is much different than the Ninja Turtle communicators that they use. I mean, they do actually use something similar to this in season 1, but it's not until season 2 that she mostly uses this, and then the turtles use their, communicators that I talked about in the San Diego Comic-Con section. But I think that, this is supposed to maybe look like a, what do you call it, like a compact or something like that girls use for makeup. I don't know. But you can see that in the cartoon that this thing actually does have like this clip on the side for her to open it up. If you actually do look at the insides of this thing, I mean, that looks just like the cartoon. And this thing is tiny. This thing is very, very small. It must have been a little difficult to, to sculpt this stuff. All these little details are the same, It looks really good. April comes with the baby pizza monster, and that's from the episode The Case of the Killer Pizza, which is in Season 2. I've always been a huge fan of the Pizza Monsters, especially since they were in Turtles in Time, the second Game Boy game, and also because I just love Xenomorphs. You know, obviously this guy is a ripoff of the Alien Xenomorphs, and I just thought it was awesome seeing the the Ninja Turtles fight this guy. And like I said, this is the baby. He's smaller, and of course, earlier this year, NECA put up a pre-order for the full-sized Xenomorphs, which look pretty amazing. You know, I can't wait to get that. In the episode The Case of the Killer Pizzas, Baxter Stockman puts Dimension X eggs onto pizzas, hoping that the Ninja Turtles will take them home and eventually get eaten. But unfortunately, the pizzas that Baxter infects, 2 of them get taken to an apartment somewhere, and one of them Mikey gives to April. You know, that's not good. So April takes the pizza home to Irma's, and after Irma puts the whole pizza in the microwave, the pizza monsters hatch, and they come out, and the turtles have to stop them. They eventually grow giant size. See, here's what I want to know: who puts an entire box of pizza in a microwave, and who has a microwave big enough to even put a whole box of pizza? That just like confounds me. I don't get that at all. So, this guy looks pretty awesome. He looks pretty much just like how he does in the cartoon. And like I said, as soon as I saw this, I was really looking forward to the giant-sized pizza monsters, and now we finally got it. And if you want to know, this guy has more alien abilities. He can also burn through things. I'm not sure how he exactly does that. I don't know if he just spits fire out of his mouth or what, but he can burn things, which is pretty similar to the acidy blood of aliens. And once he jumps in water, he grows in size to, his full pizza monster size. So to me, that is also kind of like a spoof of Gremlins. And now you have April's final accessory. You have the Maltese Hamster. The Maltese Hamster is from a Season 3 episode called The Maltese Hamster. In that episode, April buys the hamster thinking it's just a normal antique. But what she doesn't know is Tony, the Butcher Vivaldi, and the Shredder are also searching for the Maltese Hamster. Why are they searching for the Maltese Hamster? Well, I'll tell you. There's a formula for a super explosive fuel written inside of the hamster, and Shredder wants to find it so that he can use it to power the Technodrome and get it moving again. I like that episode a lot. It's kind of a spoof of the Maltese Falcon, and also Donnie does like a detective narration over the whole episode, which I really love. I think it's great. I love the film noir style. It kind of reminds me of the real Ghostbusters episode, The Long, 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 Etc. Goodbye, which is a favorite episode of mine and features one of my favorite ghosts, Blackie. This episode is also funny for me because when Peter Laird was asked one time why he didn't like the Fred Wolf Show, he talked about how it was goofy and specifically mentioned how he thought things like machines that could summon only antiques was stupid. Something like that. And, it was just funny. I mean, he's right, but, it's still a fun episode. Now, on to Metalhead. Metalhead is a huge figure, and he only has a few things, so, this won't take long at all. First, you have the chest blaster, which appears in Metalhead's first episode, the making of Metalhead. His chest pops open like that, and the gun just shoots out, sort of. It looks very similar to this in the cartoon, and it has like the wire on it too. You just plug that in there, and then the wire lines up. So there you go, and that's how he looks in the cartoon when he's using this thing. Knucklehead also uses this awesome chest gun in the amazing Turtles in Time arcade game in the arcades and the Super Nintendo. Next up, you have another weapon from the first appearance of Metalhead. And by the way, the making of Metalhead appears in Season 3. So he uses this drill whenever he's bursting into the Ninja Turtle sewer lair, when he's trying to find them. The last accessory he has is the vacuum, and Metalhead uses this in the Season 4 episode, Big Bug Blunder. In that episode, Donnie he reprogrammed Metalhead so that he could use him as a maid, and he only shows up in like the beginning of the episode, and Metalhead loses control and starts vacuuming up everything in the sewer lair. I was curious to see if he could actually hold this Splinter up and try to vacuum him, because he does that in the show. But you really can't do that. You probably need some kind of support for him or a stand, because he's going to topple forward. Not to mention the vacuum seems a little too long. You can't really aim it at Splinter. In Big Bug Blunder, we also get to see Metalhead's on and off switch. One final note about Metalhead. Metalhead has these grenades on his belt. Now, he actually does use these in the Season 3 episode, The Making of Metalhead. And, he just tosses these at the Ninja Turtles while he's trying to shoot them with his chest blaster or whatever. And these are just kind of like flash grenades or something like that. They explode, but they don't really do any damage to the sewer lair. It was pretty easy finding out all this information about Metalhead, because really he's only in 2 episodes, and his second appearance is like in Big Bug Blunder. He's only in there for 2 minutes or something like that. It's ridiculously short. It's such a shame because he's such a cool character. Now here's Leatherhead and Slash. And these guys were pretty cool because they came with so many cool accessories from the cartoon. All of these are very specific to the episodes they appeared in. And, I think these guys are pretty interesting because even though the cartoon designs are okay, I mostly prefer the Turtles in Time versions of these guys. So I'm glad NECA gave us the option here because, especially Slash. I love the Turtles in Time Slash so much more than the cartoon design. Okay, so first up, Leatherhead has his bear trap and his crawdads. These are pretty cool because, these crawdads, first of all, are pretty big. They actually look more like lobsters, but they're pretty big. They have very, very thin arms, which is something to kind of worry about. The bear trap is pretty cool because, it opens and closes. So that's nice. You can hang both the bear trap and the crawdads on his belt. I kind of don't like the way they have these things, the crawdads hanging from his belt, just because they look weird being hung by their claws. I feel like that they should be there should be something here where they're hanging upside down like this. So I don't know why they did it that way. And you can see in the cartoon that most of the time he just has these hanging off of his belt, but he does use them sometimes. In the Season 3 episode, Leatherhead meets the Rat King. Leatherhead is captured by the Rat King, so he uses his bear trap to grab a nearby key so that he can, free himself. And also earlier in that episode, Leatherhead pinches this dude's nose with one of his crawfish or crayfish or crawdads or lobsters, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, lobsters and crayfish are different, but these things are gigantic. And then, come on. Are there lobsters in the bayou? Or the Florida swamps? I don't even know. You have to be very careful with this, the bear trap, too. People were saying that when they were getting these, the clip was falling off the belt. So it is a little tricky. I just kind of lightly jiggle it out of place here, because this piece here is only kind of glued into place on the belt. So you got to be very careful. Leatherhead has shackles, and in Leatherhead Meets the Rat King from Season 3, one of these is wrapped around Leatherhead's neck. This is way too small to wrap around this giant Leatherhead neck. So you're not going to be able to do that. But in that episode, he also captures April, and in Night of the Rogues, he captures Vernon. So let's see if that works. Surprisingly, you can't really wrap this around April's neck because of her hair under the collar of her jacket. So you can't really recreate that look. I mean, technically you sort of can, but... And in Night of the Rogues, he has this thing wrapped around Vernon's midsection, and you can't really do that either. However, you can wrap this around his neck. Maybe the plan is just so that you can have it wrap around the Ninja Turtle's neck, but even for them, because of the shell in the back of the head, it is tricky trying to actually close this thing. So, I mean, you can, you know, kind of pretend that it's wrapped around there if you don't turn him around. Leatherhead has this huge rope, and he never actually uses this to capture anybody in the cartoon. This actually makes an appearance in the Season 3 episode, Leatherhead, which is Leatherhead's first appearance. And you see this rope whenever the turtles and the punk frogs capture Leatherhead. So technically, this is kind of like a good guy accessory. And surprisingly, I thought, you know, I wasn't going to be able to fit this rope in the punk frog's hands, but I could get it in there. That's pretty cool. Next up, you have Leatherhead's net. Now, this is from the episode, the Season 3 episode, Leatherhead. And you see this whenever he captures the turtles. See, it's pretty big. Here he is capturing the turtles. And if you look, you'll see that he captures all 4 Ninja Turtles in this net and April. So, can you do that with this net? Kinda, but not really. It's a little too small to actually fully engulf them, you know. But I'm sure you can get 1 or 2 of them in here just fine, you know. Earlier in that episode, Leatherhead also throws back one of the punk frog nets back on the punk frogs to capture them. But I believe that would be considered a different net. And last, Leatherhead has his hot sauce, Cajun style gun. He uses this in the Season 7 episode, Night of the Rogues. You know, this thing is really awesome looking. This just has a ton of Ninja Turtle personality, you know, in my opinion. I think it's pretty cool. You can easily fit this in his hands, right? I think. I usually have it in his hand. I'm having a little trouble. There, got it. It only took me about 30 seconds, but I got it in there. So, you know, it looks really awesome having him hold this gun. And when he uses it in the cartoon, it mostly just kind of shoots fire. Like, it doesn't look like he's shooting any kind of liquid or anything like that. It's just kind of like a flamethrower. Next up, we have Slash's side. Now, Slash first appeared in the Season 4 episode, Slash the Evil Turtle from Dimension X. Slash began as Bebop's pet turtle, which he had to keep in Shredder, or else Shredder would be all upset about it and get mad, you know? So here in this side, we have a pet, or a baby Slash before he gets mutated by Rocksteady. As a regular pet turtle, Slash's favorite thing in the whole wide world was his pet Binky, which is this little tiny palm tree. And as he gets bigger, he still wants his Binky, but once he can't find it, he explodes in rage and chases after Bebop and Rocksteady. So what's cool here is they also included Slash's pet Binky. You know, this thing actually made its appearances in Archie comics, too, whenever Slash was in those comics. So that's pretty neat. Next up, Slash has 2 swords, and these are actually Shredder's Shaolin swords. And Slash steals these off the walls in the Technodrome whenever he's trying to find his Binky, and he wants to kill Bebop and Rocksteady. He even gets to have a sword fight with Leo, which is pretty cool, but Leo doesn't stand a chance. At the end of his first appearance, Slash is shot into space and doesn't return until the Season 6 episode, Donatello Trashes Slash. This is like a tongue twister, I swear. Before he returns, Slash crashed on an alien world where these aliens increased his intelligence. Now he's decided to return to Earth and turn everyone into turtles, which he will then rule as the master of the turtles, or I can't remember what it says, maybe Alpha Turtle? I can't remember. Okay, so once he comes back to Earth, Slash has got a bunch of new tech, and he keeps all of it in his backpack, which I got to mention this first before I get to the accessories. Now, one thing I have to say about this is it would have been better if they would have made this like removable, so that way you could have like Slash from first appearance Slash, and you could have Slash from Donatello Trash's Slash. I can't remember if he has this backpack on him or not during Night of the Rogues. I'll have to go and check. But all right. So in the cartoon, this like backpack thing, this tech backpack, is kind of thin. It kind of sits up very high on his shell. It looks kind of small, but apparently he's keeping all of his weapons and stuff in it. I kind of prefer the way that this looks on the actual action figure because it's very big and bulky. To me, it looks, like it's actually filled with a bunch of things. I think it fits. I think it looks a little better than it does in the cartoon. The first blaster included with Slash is this thing. Now, I don't think that there's an actual name for this, but Slash says in the episode that this is like a weapon of his own design. I just really like the look of this thing. I think it's pretty cool. I like that it actually has 3 barrels. And you have this little piece on top here. I don't know. There's lots of very nice little details on this thing. I even like how you have like all these little tiny lines through the through this rubbery part. It'd be the part that expands, because in the cartoon, these like all 3 sides of this can kind of turn, so that way he can blast in 3 different directions at once. Unfortunately, this toy cannot rotate. These like tubes or whatever, they are hard plastic and it's just all connected, so that's kind of a bummer, but it's still very cool looking. The next gun included with Slash is the Animalizer. Now that actually has a name. And I gotta say, I really love the design on this thing. I think it looks really cool. The only problem I have with it is the design, because it looks just like it does in the cartoon, and it's, this front part here is connected to the back part with these very, very thin wires. And I feel like it's only a matter of time before these, break or crack or something, So this, even though I love this thing, I think it looks cool, it really has me worried. And here you can see it in the cartoon. And like I said, it looks, it looks just like this toy. And this Animalizer, this is the weapon that Slash uses to turn humans into turtles. Now, there is one weapon in this episode that I think could have been included with Slash. It wasn't included, and, it's not that big of a deal, but, it is something cool that he uses, and that's his freeze ray. I think that thing looks pretty cool too. Maybe they'll include it with some figure in the future. Who knows? But, like I said, that's a pretty cool looking one. And the last accessory included with Slash is this pizza. Now, I really like the way that this pizza looks. It's got a very thick look to it, a very thick crust. But what I think is great about it is it actually matches the pizza he eats. He's actually eating this pizza in Vinny's Pizza during his first appearance in the episode Slash Evil Turtle from Dimension X. And like I said, it matches the toy. The toy matches the cartoon perfectly. It has that same thick crust look, so that's all good. Here's the Rock Soldiers, or the Stone Warriors, or whatever you want to call them. You have General Trag and Sergeant Granitor. These guys are great, For me, this is when this line really started to get special or amazing. I just thought these guys looked fantastic, and you finally had an action figure of a Ninja Turtle toy that was never released before. That's Granitor. That's awesome. We never had him way back when, and now we finally got him. I already reviewed these guys. This was I think one of the earliest NECA reviews I did. So I talked about them as much as I could. Because these guys are so big, they kind of cut back the accessories a little bit. That's perfectly fine with me. I'm all right with that because these guys are huge and you don't need too much. Although there is one item that I do think that they should have included that I'll mention in a little bit. So first up, you have this this laser pistol. And, I don't know what the exact name is of this thing, but that's just what I'm calling it. And you can actually holster these on their belts. And in the cartoon, you can see them. They have this thing very frequently when they're shooting at the turtles. And, it looks pretty similar to this toy. Also included is a new communicator with a brand new picture on it. This is the Krang from the Krang Android Body toy. So it's the new updated sculpt of Krang. The original one from the SDCC set had the SDCC Krang on it. So now you have the Krang Android Body in your foot communicator. They have a gray canister of mutagen, and I already discussed this earlier in the promo art turtle section. So check that out if you're skipping around here and you missed it. Last, you have the Neutrino Wanted posters. Now, these never actually appear in the show. I've watched all the Neutrino episodes trying to find them. I tried to watch a few episodes where, the Ninja Turtles were just in Dimension X to see if maybe they were in, like, some kind of space or something like that. Like, there's an episode called The Dimension X Story where Vernon goes and he fights in this kind of like a bar. And I thought, oh, well, maybe there you'll see, like, some wanted posters of the Neutrinos up. But no, I couldn't find them. So, if they do exist, and you know that they exist, please let me know. This is one of those things where I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that they are not in the cartoon, but, who knows. So, these have pictures of the Neutrinos, and the Neutrinos, show up a few times in the cartoon, here and there. Originally appeared in Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X in Season 1. And, these wanted posters are just kind of like a tease, a tease that NECA is putting out, trying to get you excited for the eventual NECA Neutrino action figures. It's a shame that Granitor was overlooked for so long. I always thought he was really cool in that cartoon. Not to mention when he actually did show up in the video games, like the Game Boy game and the arcade. It's a shame, too, that he just never showed up in any other later episodes in any other seasons. Like, I think it would have been cool if he would have, teamed up with Trag again. There's some episodes in Season 2 where they kind of miscolored the Rock Soldiers or maybe miscolored Trag. So it's almost like they combined Granitor and Trag together. So the one item missing from this Rock Soldier set is the weather satellite. Like, you would have thought that they would have put this in here. Seems like it would be an easy accessory to make because it's just like a ball. So, they need to release this sometime in the future. Like, this is a pretty popular item. Not only does it show up in that the Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X when Trag uses it to, cause the weather in New York City to go haywire, but it also shows up in Ninja Turtles, the arcade game on regular Nintendo. I can't remember which level it is, but it's maybe the 5th level whenever you're walking through New York and it's, all of a sudden turned to a snowstorm and you have to fight the polar bear Tora at the end. Man, we've gone through so much already and there's still so much more to go. All right, next up you have the Triceraton Infantryman and Roadkill Rodney. Technically this is like a 3-pack, right? This is one of my favorite sets because I love Triceratons from Mirage comic books, and I really love Roadkill Rodney. They were always some of my favorite robots from Ninja Turtles. I loved beating the crap out of them in the arcade game and Turtles in Time, and I just thought it was cool whenever they showed up in Enter the Shredder. And what's pretty interesting is that all three of these guys, they only show up in one episode apiece. That's nuts. You would have thought Roadkill Rodney, much like Granitor, would have showed up more. I guess just because he's in a video game, you think like he was like present all the time. But no, he only showed up in Enter the Shredder. And the Triceraton, their race only showed up in the Season 7 episode, Night of the Dark Turtle. And in that episode, the Triceratons land on Earth because they want to open up a star portal and send Earth to the Triceraton homeworld, where the Triceraton army or whatever will invade Earth and, I guess, scrap our planet, take what they need and destroy everything else. Out of these 3 weapons, the Triceraton only uses one of them, and that's this Triceraton laser cannon. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember if they had an actual name for this thing or not, but I'm calling it the laser cannon because that's pretty much what it is. It just shoots laser beams, and it's hard to get a good grasp on how powerful this thing is. At one point in time, they shoot at the Ninja Turtles inside of a dumpster, and it does nothing to the dumpster. It doesn't even leave scratches or anything like that. And then another times they shoot at the road and they blow out a giant hole that the turtle van drives into. So how powerful is this thing? These other 2 weapons are kind of like the stock Bebop and Rocksteady weapons of Seasons 1 and 2. I showed you what they start to use after Season 3 to Season 8, but, they used these weapons during the first season. And also in Return of the Technodrome, I have seen the Foot Soldier use Bebop's weapon, which is the laser phaser. After Season 2, they just never used these weapons again. In my opinion, they probably changed them because they thought that these weapons look too much like real life weapons, so they decided to give them those like stun lasers. Because, you know, in the first episode that, you know, Rocksteady uses his gun, like there's bullet casings or whatever, or bullet shells flying off of it when he's blasting it, and they just kind of say it's a stun laser. But come on, we all know the truth here. Both of these guns first appeared in the episode Enter the Shredder, and also both of these toys were released in the original Playmates line, but I'll show you that in a second. So, you know, like I said, this gun actually does shoot some bullet shells when he's firing it at the Ninja Turtles. If you want to see like a really good like shot of this thing, you should check out the episode Splinter No More, and you can see Rocksteady using this. And that's during the second season, and that's when Shredder's like, oh, use your stun lasers to stop the turtles. But you're like, come on, that is not a stun laser. You know, this thing, I mean, it looks like a rifle. It looks like, I don't know, this thing is very, very cool looking. Looks very tactical. I don't know, I like this thing. When this gun was released in the original Playmates line, it was called the Retromutagen Gun, and it was originally included with the Rocksteady in 1988. So this was one of the first guns ever in the toy line, which begs the question, which was designed first, the toy or the cartoon? And you can see here that, you know, they're pretty similar. Like there's certain design things about it that you can definitely see what it, you know, how either influenced the other. But, you know, this one definitely looks way more like an actual real rifle. I don't know. This is a very, very cool design. I like this. And if you look at the cartoon, you can see how they kind of changed that Playmates design for the cartoon design, or vice versa, whichever it was. All right, so up next is Bebop's gun. And this has always been one of my favorite guns because I always loved the shield, or this plate on the front of it. I always thought that was pretty cool looking. And, you know, like I said, this originally shows up in the episode Enter the Shredder. And you want to see something pretty interesting? When, at some point, Leonardo jumps in the air and he comes down to slice the nozzle off of this gun, or the barrel. And, Leo turns into Raphael. So Raphael cuts off the barrel, and then Raphael again enters from the right of the screen to kick Bebop over. And then in the next shot, Raphael has completely disappeared while Bebop gets knocked over, and then Raphael rolls in from the right and sticks his sai into Rocksteady's barrel. How did Raphael do all that? If you want to see some very nice close-ups of this gun, all you got to do is watch the Season 2 episode Splinter No More, and you'll be able to get some nice clear shots of this thing. When this gun was originally released in the toy line, it didn't come out until 1990 with the original Triceraton figure. So that was, I think, 3 years after it debuted in the cartoon. But, I mean, if you look at this gun here, that is definitely the same gun. And in the Playmates line, it was called the Laser Phaser. But like I said, that is the exact same gun. What's a little perplexing to me is why the Laser Phaser wasn't included with the 1988 Bebop. You know, why did we get the turtle shell drill? It doesn't make any sense, because like I said, he mostly uses this gun in Season 1 and then in Season 2. However, I will say this. The turtle shell drill, or a gun that looks just like this, does show up in the episode Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. So maybe they did design this gun to be in the cartoon. They just decided not to use it and just mostly go with the Laser Phaser. You know, I wish that people who worked on these shows, or like Mirage, or anybody would still like talk about this stuff, but it's, you know, it's pretty difficult to find information about these things nowadays. And just for completionist's sake here, when I can be, you know, I probably haven't mentioned a bunch of things already with all these different accessories and weapons, but I might as well point this one out. In the original Ninja Turtles arcade game, it looks like Rocksteady uses the Retromutagen Gun. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's it, right? Don't you agree? But here you have Bebop, and Bebop uses a completely different gun. And I thought this was, like, extremely surprising, because for whatever reason, I have it, like, burnt into my brain that he uses the Laser Phaser. So, what happened here? Did I just make this memory up, or what? What's going on here? As far as I can tell, from looking into all of the video games I have from the Ninja Turtles, Bebop never uses a laser phaser in any of them, but Rocksteady usually uses some kind of rifle that could probably be the Retromutagen Gun. Now we're on to Roadkill Rodney, and as I said before, Roadkill Rodney only showed up in one episode during Season 1, and that was Enter the Shredder. And that's crazy because I feel like these guys showed up all over the place, but they didn't. It's just because I played the games way too many times, and these guys have always been burnt into my memories from those games, and probably the Topps cards too. I remember I have some cards of them. So, I really love this design of these guys. I think they're great, you know. I think that they have a very cool, very unique look to them, you know. They look very different from most other robots you'd see in comic books or TV. Most of the time you want to display these guys with their tentacles, but, you know, for accuracy's sake, you know, let's show him without his tentacles. So first, let's talk about his gun. Now, his gun just kind of folds out from his chest, like so. And you can actually see him do that in the episode Enter the Shredder. He uses this gun to blast the bars in the zoo so that they can free the Warthog and the Rhino and take them back to the Technodrome. Next, you have Roadkill Rodney's tentacles, and, you know, these are very cool. I just wish that these NECA tentacles were made of a softer material. That way they were a little more malleable, and you could wrap them around things in different ways. But, you know, whatever. They're still fine. You know, these robots use these a lot in the cartoon. They use them when they're capturing zoo animals, Splinter, and, you know, whatever else they can. And of course, I'm sure you remember that they use these tentacles in the video game and shock the ever-living crap out of you. One really cool feature about this guy is you have this dirt patch, and you have the the drill for the head. And, you know, NECA thought, well, all you got to do is you could pull that head off, pop the top. This is not the... Now, pulling the top of the head off is not always the easiest. I always kind of have to, like, kind of slowly rotate it a little bit to get it out. But you'll get it out. Like, if you try to just stick your fingers between the cracks, you can accidentally, like, you know, scratch the edge of the plastic or whatever. So, let's see here. Come on. Why aren't you going in? Anyways. I mean, you could push them in further than that, but I'm just trying to move a little quick here. You know, you can try to make it look like he's bursting up through the ground, just like he does in the cartoon. And also in the game. Another great accessory included in this set is the battle damage head. You see you've got the 3 holes there. That's so you can take Raph and stab him right in the head. Just like he does in the cartoon. Man, that's awesome. And if you want to get super crazy, super detailed and excessive, alright, you see how he's kept up with this cloud of smoke behind his tire? You know, that's his kind of like his stand. It'll keep him in place. Well, guess what? You can see that cloud of smoke in the episode whenever he's trying to pull the Rhino or the Warthog back into the hole, to the Technodrome. Wow. And I just want to end the Roadkill Rodney section by saying that, you know, toys like Roadkill Rodney and Granitor are the reason why this NECA line is one of the best toy lines of all time, because they finally fulfilled my childhood dream from 30-some years ago, I think. How long ago was that? I don't even want to think about it. 34 years ago? Jeez Louise. Yeah, so it's awesome finally getting these cool guys after all this time, and I can't wait to see what, you know, figures come next in this line that have never been released before. Up next, you have this Triceraton Leader 2-pack, and this one's going to go extremely quick because I just covered pretty much all these guns in the last section, which was the Triceraton Infantryman section. The only thing we got to talk about are those claws on Zorax, and also some missing weapons here that could have been included. So I do want to mention this, that in the cartoon, the leader, Commander Zorax, this yellow guy, his name is Zorax with an O. On the NECA packaging, it says Zarax, Z-A-R-A-X, so that is incorrect. And the green guy's name, his name is Zork. You know, they got that right. That's perfectly fine. Now I just want to say this, that, I think both of these guys look amazing, but for me, because I'm such a huge fan of the color green, Zork is my favorite. I think he looks awesome, and he looks like a bruiser because he's got all those huge spikes on his head. And these guys only showed up in the one episode, the Season 7 episode, Night of the Dark Turtle. Alright, so I will mention that in the cartoon, the leaders, they do also hold this Triceraton Cannon, that is... technically they do use this. It's not just like the Infantryman weapons or anything like that. All right, so here you have Zorax, right? And you have these awesome claws coming off of his, what do you call them, gauntlets? Or are they wristbands? What would you say? So when you got this guy, he had these regular wristbands. And all you had to do is pull off the hands, pull these off, and then put these gauntlets or wristbands with the claws. And, they look pretty cool. I wish they were possibly a little longer, because they, he really can't, like, I don't know, you can't get, like, very good dynamic punches, poses, and stuff like that with your Ninja Turtles, but they're fine. And in the cartoon, like, he just pops these out of here, and he just kind of fights Leonardo like he's Wolverine or something like that. Now, there are two guns that I think can be included in this line that could possibly come in the future. First, Commander Zorax. He has this, like, very small handheld gun. And then you also have this other laser rifle kind of gun. I don't know what you call it. Now, we're up to Krang. And this Krang android body is just amazing. I think it's really awesome looking, and I love all the accessories in this set. And I actually did a very... somewhat thorough review of this thing way back when it first came out, and that was around the time that I really started using screenshots from the show to show what some of these items were. But even with Krang, I was just beginning, don't get mad at me, I was just beginning, okay? I didn't know where all these weapons were from exactly, and so I only think I had pictures of the Baby Shredder and the shower uniform, but now I got pictures of everything, so let's go over all this stuff in some excessive detail. Krang's android body made its first appearance in the episode Shredder and Splintered. That was pretty awesome. A few weeks ago, a viewer commented on one of my videos and brought to my attention that in the beginning, the body has flesh-colored hands, okay? Like, it matches the rest of his, pasty, tan body color, right? I never really thought about that, so I didn't even, because I wasn't thinking about that, I didn't notice that was, yes, that's true. In the first 2 seasons, he has flesh-colored hands. It's not until season 3 that he finally starts to have the red hands. So, that begs the question, should they have included flesh-colored hands in this set, or should they have just given you the red ones? Personally, I'm okay with the red ones just because I think maybe the contrast is a little better. I think it's a little more interesting than just him having regular, like, skin-colored hands. On to weapons. First up, you have these 2 ball and chains. These things are awesome. They're actually the chains are made out of metal, and, the spiked balls just look amazing. The only problem is that because they're ball and chains, you can only really hang them from his body unless you put, like, a wire or something like that in there to make them, make it look like he's swinging them or something like that. So these actually show up in the season 3 episode, The Big Break-In. That's like the second to last episode in season 3. He switches out his regular arms and puts in these ball and chain arms. He does like kind of throw them at the Ninja Turtles, but instead of hitting them, he just kind of like ties the turtles up and swings them around, and the balls kind of disappeared. Like, they're not even there after that. The rest of these weapons all appear in the season 6 episode, Krangenstein Lives. In that episode, Krang works on his body and tries to put a new microchip inside of it, but dumb old Bebop or Rocksteady gives him a chip from a Space Trek game, so the body goes haywire, thinks it's like in Space Trek or whatever, and it goes to Earth by itself without Krang in the cockpit, and causes all kind of havoc and fights the Ninja Turtles. First up, you have the circular saw, which I think is pretty awesome. It actually spins around, and you only see this when Krang is working on his body, when he's just doing his little, like, his tune-up. Here you have Krang's axe, and you also see this whenever Krang is doing his tune-up on his Krang android body. Here you have Krang's dual guns, and again you see these whenever the Krang body is fighting the Ninja Turtles. Probably one of the most obscure sets of accessories in this whole NECA Ninja Turtle line is this shower set for Krang. This is just hilarious, and I'm sure a lot of people saw this and they were like, "What? Why would they give you that?" I don't even know why they would give it to you either. It's such a random Krang thing from a random episode. It happens in Season 2, the episode Splinter No More. In that episode, at one point, Shredder calls up Krang, and, Krang enters his foot communicator in these shower clothes. Like, he had to jump out of the shower to answer the communicator. Thanks a lot, Saki. Now, here's a funny thing. In this one shot, you can see that they forgot to draw the back of the shower cap. That was a pretty dumb mistake. If they gave us another Krang android body variant, I want Winter Wonderland Krang from Take Me to Your Leader. Krang uses quite a lot of different hands in the series, but not as often as you would think. Usually it happens in like a special episode. Most of the times Krang is just hanging out at the Technodrome and letting Shredder do all of his dirty work for him. But here are some different hands that I think would be cool in the future if they ever release like an accessories pack or something. First, you have the scissors from Shreddered and Splintered. You have the communicator from Shredder and Splintered. And you also have the wing arms. I don't know how they could do that. I don't know if they could actually replace if you could pull out these arms in Krang Android body, or what, if they would actually have to release this as its own figure. I don't know. I also think it'd be cool if they released the hammers from the big break-in. I really like these because they remind me of Apocalypse. Apocalypse is always making these giant, like, smashing things with his hands when he's going after Wolverine or the X-Men or whatever. Also, the scissors from Krankenstein Lives. I mean, those look pretty awesome. And, he uses these tentacles a lot in that Krankenstein Lives episode, too. So, he could, they could give us that in the future. That'd be nice. Also included with Krang is Baby Shredder. Somehow I got a nick in mine, and I don't know how that happened. That's a bummer. So, Shredder turns into a baby in the Season 3 episode Leatherhead. Basically, in that episode, the mutagen that turned Leatherhead and the Punk Frogs into the mutants that they are, it's in the swamp, and it just kind of interacts with humans differently. It kind of acts like a fountain of youth, and when Shredder jumps in, he accidentally gets transformed into a baby. And not only that, but it also removes toes. The final accessories included with Krang are a set of blueprints. These are pretty awesome. First up, you have the Krang android body blueprints. Look at that. That's a pretty nice looking picture. You actually see this in the Season 1 episode, Hot Rodding Teenagers from Dimension X. And, Krang is just holding these up whenever he's whining to Shredder, "I need a body," or whatever, I can't do a Krang impression, so forgive me. Alright, so the next set of blueprints are these Knucklehead blueprints. And these are pretty cool. These don't look as detailed as the Krang ones. There's just some boxes kind of scribbled in here, but it's fine. You see this in the Season 3 episode, Casey Jones. In that episode, Krang has some machines design this giant knucklehead for him so that he can try to destroy the city. But in the end, of course, the Ninja Turtles and Casey Jones win, and they have the knucklehead destroy itself. It's a long story. They make all these little tiny insect robots go inside of it and reprogram it or something like that. Check it out. It's a pretty decent episode. Earlier in Season 2, they actually have a smaller Knucklehead, and in that episode, that Knucklehead is actually designed by Baxter before Baxter gets turned into the Fly. And so of course that episode is Enter the Fly. But the biggest disappointment of this is the Ninja Turtles destroy this Knucklehead within 10 seconds. They have a build-up of Shredder making this thing, or having it captured Rocksteady, and then the Shredder releases it on the Ninja Turtles. They deflect a laser beam back at this thing, and it immediately blows up. What a waste. Let's be honest though, both of these cartoon appearances are nothing more than just commercials, so you'd go out and buy the Knucklehead. The original Knucklehead came out in 1988, and you can usually trap a turtle with it. Man, we've covered quite a lot, and we're almost done. But we have to go over this Splinter and Baxter set, and this set has a ton of stuff. It's just just so many different things from the whole series. You know, it's really crazy. But after this, the last release in 2020, technically 2021, but I count it as 2020, is a cakewalk. So we might as well get started here. Up first is Master Splinter's walking stick. He uses this stick, to get around. I never understood this. He's not really an old man. I mean, Master Splinter is probably in his 40s or 30s whenever he gets to New York and he gets changed. So what's up with that? Why is he all of a sudden kind of old and brittle? He also uses this thing whenever he's fighting the Shredder. Here you have one of Yoshi's pet rats from the first episode, Turtle Tracks. Next, you have Splinter's Art Book, which contains the names of Master Splinter's favorite Renaissance painters. They never show the contents of this book in the episode, but it's pretty awesome that they included this in here just so you can see, the different Renaissance painters. What's the nice little touch here is they actually colored the shapes around the heads, the colors of the Ninja Turtles. You have Splinter's Yin Yang Medallion, which he uses to hypnotize Michelangelo in the episode Michelangelo Meets Mondo Gecko. And then later in that episode, Michelangelo uses this same medallion to hypnotize Mondo Gecko. Here is the Foot Clan Sacred Scroll. This appeared in the Season 3 episode Blast from the Past. In that episode, Shredder uses this scroll to summon Shabana Sama. Shabana Sama is the founder of the Foot Clan. During that episode, later on in the Season 6 episode, The Legend of Koji, it's revealed that Koji is the actual founder of the Foot Clan, but more on that in a little bit. So Shredder says that he is the true leader of the Foot Clan, so that Bebop and Rocksteady can gain immense power. This episode is kind of like a clip show, and in the end, Splinter proves that he is the leader of the Foot Clan by demonstrating the Curly maneuver, which is just like, Splinter fighting like Curly from the Three Stooges or whatever. This scroll even says Curly on the first line down. The next line down says Besser. And then at the end of Besser, there's an SH, which continues into the next line. So it says Shemp. And then underneath Shemp, it says Nuck. And then the next line says Nuck. And after Nuck, it says Sap. Now, I'm not really sure what that has to do with the Three Stooges. I'm a little confused by that. And then the last line, it says Certainly. And if you don't know what Besser is or who Besser is, Besser was one of the... he was a stooge after Curly, after Curly and after Shemp, and he'd never liked to be hit or something like that. Here's the Retromutagen Ray Generator. Now, this is a gun I always wanted. This appeared in the episode Shredder and Splintered from Season 1. This ray can reverse mutations. Splinter wants it so that the Shredder won't use it on the Turtles, and the Turtles want it so that they can revert their master back into human. In the end, Splinter destroys it to protect his students. I love that episode. And in my opinion, this is just an extra weapon or accessory for your Shredder figure. Sure, it's packed in with Splinter, but it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to Shredder. And, it was just driving me crazy when I would see reviews or I saw pictures of people with Splinter holding the gun, and they'd be like, why does Splinter have this gun? Why would Splinter have a gun? And I was just like screaming in my iPad, alone by myself. Like, that's not a gun. It's the Retromutagen Ray Generator. Come on. Here's the Turtles' bedroom map. I'm not sure if you actually see it in any other rooms. I'm pretty sure you don't. I'm pretty sure that it just shows up in their bedroom. And, just every now and then you see it in there. This is the sword of Yurikawa. This is from the season 6 episode, The Sword of Yurikawa. Splinter sees that this sword is on display in a Japanese embassy, on television, of course, and he says that he needs to get it because it once belonged to his master, and it's very powerful. Splinter says that it has the amazing power of transformation, always changing, yet always staying the same. Basically, it catches on fire. Splinter steals it, and he uses it to test the turtles. They can't figure out who he is because they're dumb. Last, and probably the hardest accessory of all to find, is this red book. This took me forever to find, because there's no marking on it or any kind of inkling of what this book could possibly be. So I had to skim every single episode until I found it. And finally I found it in the 7th season, the 158th episode to be exact. And when I found it, I jumped for joy. Finally, after all this time, I know what this red book is. I knew it had to be something specific. And I actually thought for a while that it could have been like a color mistake when they made this toy. I thought for a little bit that it could have possibly been the plant book in the episode Enter the Fly from season 2. But no, it's not that. It actually is a red book, and it appears in the episode The Legend of Koji. In that episode, the Shredder travels back to the year 1583, so he can kill Splinter's ancestor, Hamato Koji. This would guarantee that Splinter would cease to exist, as well the Ninja Turtles. Hamato Koji is the founder of the Foot Clan. Now, I don't know why it changed, because in Blast from the past, they said that it was Shibano-sama, but in this episode, the Ninja Turtles, Splinter and Koji search for the shrine of Shibano-sama, I guess so they can find his scroll or something. I don't know. So, as Splinter tries to explain to the Turtles why they need to go back in time and stop the Shredder, he holds this book up. So I assume this book contains the history of the Foot Clan or some information about Splinter's lineage. I thought that later on he would use it to possibly prove to Koji that he is indeed Koji's descendant. Or, maybe they would look in this to find the whereabouts of something else. But no, they never show it again. They only show it whenever he's explaining to the Turtles why they have to go back in time. Which is kind of strange, you'd think it would pop up again. You don't know how happy it made me to learn what this finally was after all this time. I even messaged NECA on Facebook and asked them what the sword was, and they replied, "Sorry, we don't have an answer for that." They didn't even know either! Now we're on the Baxter side, and first we're going to start with Baxter's Mutant Ray Gun. This appears in the Season 3 episode Bye Bye Fly. In that episode, Baxter discovers an underground spaceship. He befriends the central computer, and the computer gifts this weapon to Baxter. He wants this weapon so that he can get his revenge on the Shredder and the Turtles and, whoever else wronged him in the past. With the turn of a dial, Baxter can zap anything into any animal he wants. With the Mutant Ray Gun, he turns Shredder into a fly, which is included in this set, and it looks really awesome. I love how his cape is still there, and you can still see his helmet and his shoulder pads. That's pretty cool. He also uses the Mutant Ray Gun to turn Michelangelo into a hamster, which is also included in this set. And look how angry Michelangelo is. This is pretty funny. In the end of the episode Bye Bye Fly, Baxter escapes in this ship to Dimension X, but it falls apart because he forgot to put the retaining bolt in the warp drive assembly. There, Baxter is almost eaten by a giant spider. Baxter shows up next in the Season 4 episode Son of Return of the Fly, where the ship computer still lives on as a normal-sized computer. He's Baxter's best bud, and he leads him back to Earth. The computer is called Z, and I love this guy. There's so much personality in his different expressions, and I'm glad they gave him this little angry, evil-looking one. On Earth, Baxter finds a solid energy generator, I guess because they just leave these things lying around. And once Baxter inserts it into Z, Z grows limbs, so he can help Baxter get his revenge. I like the Baxter episodes a lot. They're quite possibly some of my favorite episodes in the whole show. Each one builds off of the other, and Baxter always ends up in some awful fate in the end, Poor little guy. They left a gap here underneath the Z's computer. That way you can actually stick this onto a figure or something like that if you want to. I've actually seen some people stick this Z head onto Marvel Legends Iceman bodies, so it kind of appears like he has a body made out of energy. The last accessory on Baxter's side is the Doku plant. This appears in the Season 2 episode Enter the Fly, and Shredder sends this to April because it's poisonous, and he wants her to die so he can attack the turtles through April. Now here's a question. Why doesn't the delivery man die? He does faint out of fear of the Shredder, but, Irma sniffs this thing and she doesn't die either. So what's up with that? Anyway, April believes that this is from the turtles. She thinks that it's a romantic gesture or something like that. So she decides to go to the sewer lair and tell them, thanks, turtles, but no thanks. And once Splinter opens up the door, he immediately notices what kind of plant this is, a Doku plant. He takes it out of her hands and throws it in the garbage. When the turtles return to the sewer lair, Splinter tells them that they need to go find a Gazai plant so he can use the leaves to concoct an antidote. Now, why does the Gazai plant look exactly like the Doku plant? Couldn't they at least give it different colored flowers or something? That's all for Baxter, but I do want to mention one other thing. The Turtles in Time Baxter. I kind of prefer the way that he looks here, but I'm not really getting into that right now. The thing I want to talk about is the energy handgun. In the game, if you ever played it, you know that he uses this gun that creates energy arms and hands. When I made my review, I failed to mention that this gun actually kind of shows up in the show, but it looks different. It does the same kind of thing where it creates hands and feet, but they actually look more like real hands and feet, not like these energy beams or anything like that. So Konami definitely watched this episode while they were making the game. This episode even features the Cement Man or Blob Monster, and they used that in the prehistoric level. So that is pretty cool. And that episode is Curse of the Evil Eye, and that's from Season 2. Man, just when you think this is over, it just keeps going and going. But we finally made it. We're at the final 2020 release. This is Bebop and Rocksteady in their bunny outfits from the Season 5 episode, The Turtle and the Hare. Alright, so technically these came out in 2021, but I consider them a 2020 release because they were supposed to be released in 2020 by Loot Crate. But Loot Crate, they just kept on pushing this thing back and back, and I think we didn't get it until February of 2021. But, like I said, I count it as 2020. So, alright. Now, when you got your Loot Crates back in 2020, if you ordered the third Loot Crate by itself, you just got Rocksteady in his bunny outfit. But if you ordered all 3 Loot Crates, 1, 2, and 3, you got a bonus figure, and the bonus figure was this Bebop in his bunny outfit. They only have 2 accessories apiece, and they are mostly the same. First, you have the Docilizer Ray. Krang created this and gave it to Bebop and Rocksteady to use on Earth. When Bebop and Rocksteady shoot their victims with the Docilizer Ray, it makes them tremble in fear. And last, you have the Easter baskets. Amazingly, NECA even matched the eggs in these baskets. That's pretty cool, There's so much close attention to the detail in this whole line. It's just wonderful. It's exquisite. And that's it. So, I hope you enjoyed this. It took me forever to make this. I've been working on this for like 2 weeks. I just had to, like I said, skim through the episode trying to find these things randomly. Not everything is explanatory in this line. Sometimes you really have to go digging and looking for it. And just compiling all the screenshots and writing this all out and getting everything together, it just took me a while. So, if you watched this whole thing, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm used to making these kind of things on my own. Like, I used to watch this cartoon and write down the little guides and stuff like that for myself in case if I ever wanted to go back and look for something. Only now I'm actually doing it for something. YouTube. You guys, right? What's really good, though, is that since I've skimmed all these episodes, I have pretty much all the information I need for 2021. All the figures that have been revealed so far, from The Disguise set, which I don't have yet, but I need to find it. I know where all those bits and pieces come from. I know where everything comes from with for like a Scumbug, Anthrax, and the Pizza Monsters and all that kind of stuff. So at least now I'm also prepared for next year and for my reviews of these figures when they continue to come out for the rest of the year. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think and have a good one.